Emily Grant had one job tonight: keep 10 fragile lives moving through hell. The road was a tunnel of smoke, thick and merciless, burning the back of every breath. Flames clawed at the hillsides, orange tongues licking the black sky. Behind her, they shuffled in silence, bent spines, trembling hands, oxygen tubes coiling like lifelines. Mrs. Henderson is dragging her walker. Mr. Torres wheezes with each step, and Mrs. Alden strapped in her wheelchair, her mask fogging with every desperate breath. Then came the hiss, sharp, deadly, unmistakable. The gauge needle quivered in the red. Mrs. Alden's oxygen tank was dying. Ahead, the fire line roared louder. Behind, sirens wailed, too far away to matter. There was no backup coming, no more time. Smoke scraped her throat raw, but one look at Mrs. Alden, helpless, trusting, decided for her. She tore the mask from her own face and sealed it over the old woman's mouth. Then, without hesitation, she heaved 90 pounds onto her back. Her knees buckled, her vision bled black, but her feet moved anyway, into the fire, into the dark. Every step tasted like death. Every breath was borrowed. The heat blistered her cheeks. The world tilted sideways, and then everything went black. When she woke up, she wasn't in the flames anymore, but something even harder was waiting. What would you have done in Emily's place? Risk your life to save someone else? Tell us in the comments below. And make sure to subscribe for more powerful stories of everyday heroes who choose courage when it matters most. Emily Grant was the nurse who stayed when everyone else went home, the one who checked oxygen tanks twice, sometimes 3 times, because failure wasn't an option. You care too much, Dr. Morgan teased her that morning, watching as she adjusted a blanket for the third time. Emily smiled without looking up. Someone has to. To her, these weren't just patients. They were the grandmothers and fathers, people who deserved more than the bare minimum. Tuesday was supposed to be routine: vitals, meds, soft laughter in the halls of Pine Ridge Clinic. Instead, the news sticker flashed red at the nurse's station. Wildfire warning, evacuation routes prepared. Emily barely glanced at it. Warnings came every summer. They rarely reached the town. Almost. She moved room to room, checking tanks, straightening tubes. "Morning, Mrs. Alden," she said, kneeling to adjust the flow regulator on the old woman's oxygen tank. "At 87, my lungs are just decoration," Mrs. Alden joked, voice thin as tissue. "Don't waste your time on me." Emily squeezed her hand. "Then I guess I'm wasting it gladly." By noon, sirens sliced the quiet. Through the clinic windows, orange glowed on the ridge like embers under a blanket. The radio crackled. "All residential facilities must evacuate immediately." Dr. Morgan gathered the staff. "The buses are on their way, Emily. Get the oxygen patients prepped. We move in 30. She nodded, already running her mental checklist. Tanks, valves, backups. If one failed out there, someone could die before help arrived. "The buses have emergency kits," Morgan said when she voiced the thought. But Emily knew better. She'd seen backups fail before, and the fire didn't care about protocols. So she checked every tank herself, fingers tight on the valves, heart beating with the low hum of approaching sirens. Outside, the glow crawled closer, licking the horizon. By 3:07 p.m., the clinic parking lot was a graveyard of empty promises. No buses, no sirens pulling in, just ash falling like gray snow on abandoned wheelchairs. The wind carried the smell of burning pine, thick and acrid. clinging to Emily's throat until every breath tasted like smoke. Inside, chaos was unraveling. Radios crackled with static and broken words. "Dispatch, this is Pine Ridge Medical," Dr. Morgan said for the third time, gripping the receiver like he could squeeze a response out of it. "We have 23 patients ready for evacuation. Where are the transport units?" A burst of static. Then a voice, thin, frayed. "All available units stock in gridlock. Shelter in place if possible." Then silence. Emily's stomach dropped. She pushed past the blinds and stared out of the window. The fire had leaped the ridge. Orange tongues licked down the hillside, devouring everything in their path. The sound reached them now. A low, hungry roar like an approaching freight train. Her chest tightened, and not from the smoke. "We can't stay here," she said. "The fire's less than a mile out." Dr. Morgan dragged a hand down his face. "We'll use the clinic vans. We can fit 15, maybe 16 if we squeeze." Emily scanned the room. Patients hunched in chairs, leaning on walkers. Oxygen tubes curled like lifelines. What about the others? No one answered. They didn't need to. Someone would stay behind. Not on her watch. "There's a Forest Service trail," Emily said, voice sharper than she intended. 2 miles downhill. It connects to the fire road. If the main route is blocked, that's our way out." Dr. Morgan turned on her. "That's suicide. Half these patients can walk to the bathroom without help. And you want to march them through the woods?" Emily didn't flinch. "The fire is coming whether we like it or not. We move now or we don't move at all." 20 minutes later, the plan was in motion, if you could call it that. The clinic van spilled out with the strongest patients. Dr. Morgan at the wheel. Emily stayed behind with 15 souls too fragile to make the first trip. Frail bodies, shaking hands, eyes wide with the kind of fear that doesn't need words. She forced a smile. "All right, folks, we're going for a walk, fresh air, scenic views." Mr. Torres, 78, let out a bitter laugh that turned into a cough. "You mean through hell?" Emily met his eyes. "Around it, if we stick together." They started down the trail, a crooked line of humanity against the gray smoke. Emily pushed Mrs. Alden's wheelchair with one hand and clutched a portable oxygen mask in the other. Every few steps, she looked back, counting heads, making sure no one lagged too far. The smoke thickened, curling into her lungs like barbed wire. Her shirt clung to her sweat. Heat pressed against her back like an open oven door. "How much further?" Mrs. Patterson wheezed from somewhere behind. Emily checked her GPS with trembling fingers. "Half a mile down, a mile and a half to go." "Not far," she lied. "You're doing great." They weren't. Not really. Mr. Torres stumbled and nearly went down. Mrs. Henderson leaned so heavily on her walker that Emily thought the aluminum would snap. Even Mrs. Brooks, the stubborn former hiker who insisted she didn't need help, was limping, her lips tinged gray. And then it happened. One sound cut through the coughing and chaos. A hiss that meant death. Emily froze. The hiss wasn't the fire. It was coming from the wheelchair. Her eyes shut to the tank strapped to the back of Mrs. Alden's chair. The pressure gauge was trembling in the red zone. A thin, high-pitched squeal bled into the smoke-filled air. Oh no, 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 no. Emily dropped to her knees, fingers flying over the connections. The valve was cracked, probably from the trail rocks. There was no way to fix it. The oxygen was bleeding out fast. Mrs. Alden looked at her with cloudy eyes, her voice a whisper. "It's okay, dear?" "No," Emily snapped, louder than she meant. "It's not okay. You need this to breathe." She snatched her radio, thumb pressing hard. "Dr. Morgan, come in. We have a critical oxygen failure. Do you copy?" Static. Morgan, please respond. Mrs. Alden's tank is compromised. We need. Static. Smoke, nothing else. Emily's pulse hammered in her ears. They were alone. Her only lifeline was hissing its last breath. Options flashed through her mind like cards in a losing hand. Send someone back for help? Impossible. The trail behind them was smoke and fire. Leave Mrs. Alden behind? Logic whispered yes. Her heart screamed no. Emily saw it all in a single flash. The old woman alone, flames curling around the wheelchair. Her oxygen-starved chest heaving one last time. No, not on my watch. But if she stayed, the fire would take them both, and maybe the others too. Her lungs burned with every breath now. Her fingers hovered for half a second. Then Emily made a choice. She ripped the mask from her face and pressed it over Mrs. Alden's mouth before the old woman could protest. What are you? The voice were muffled, panicked. Her eyes were wide behind the fogged plastic. Save your breath, Emily rasped. Her voice sounded like sandpaper. She tightened the straps with trembling fingers, securing the mask in place. Then she crouched low, arms sliding beneath the fragile limbs. The heat bit into her skin, as if the flames themselves objected to what she was about to do. Emily lifted. Every muscle screamed. 90 pounds of dead weight dragged at her spine like an anchor. But she pulled Mrs. Alden up and over her shoulders, locking her in place with arms that shook violently. Her knees nearly gave away. If I fail, we both burn. Emily, Mr. Torres coughed, his voice breaking like brittle wood. What about you? Keep them moving, she shouted, choking on smoke. Her throat felt raw, stripped bare. Follow the trail, don't stop. They hesitated for a heartbeat, their faces gray masks of terror. Then, slowly, they began to shuffle forward, disappearing into the wall of smoke. Emily turned toward that same wall, the trail that looked more like a mouth of hell, and stepped in. One step, then another. Each movement was agony, fire slicing through her muscles, lungs glowing for air that wasn't there. The world closed in until there was nothing but the crunch of ash beneath her boots and the weight of a life on her back. A tree cracked in the distance, loud, too loud. Emily flinched just before the trunk crashed to the ground. In the burst of sparks that lit the smoke orange, heat surged forward like a living thing, licking at her skin, searing her cheeks. She staggered sideways, Mrs. Alden groaning weakly against her shoulder. Just hold on, Emily whispered, though the words were meant for herself. Her boots slipped on loose gravel. She hit her knees hard, pain exploding up her legs. For a second, she stayed there, the weight crushing down, her vision spinning with black spots. Get up, get up, get up! With a grunt that tore from her gut, she rose again. One step, then another. She kept moving, the weight of Mrs. Alden like fire across her shoulders. If I stop now, we don't make it. The smoke thickened until it was like swimming through mud. Her eyes stung, blinded by tears she couldn't wipe away. Every breath scorched her throat like fire eating paper. And then, voices. No, one voice. Mom? A whisper at first, curling through the smoke like a dream. Emily froze. Her knees buckled. Mom, where are you? Softer now, but so familiar it broke something inside her. Sophie, her daughter, she was calling for her. Emily shook her head. Not real, can't be real. Sophie's safe, miles away. But the voice came again, stronger, closer. Come home, Mom, please, come home. The weight on her back felt heavier now, crushing her into the earth. Her chest heaved, each inhale a losing battle. She closed her eyes, and for one shimmering second, She saw Sophie's face, framed by sunlight, hair wild in the wind, laughing at something Emily couldn't quite hear. That laugh carried her forward. "I'm coming," Emily whispered. She didn't know if it was to Sophie, to Mrs. Alden, or to herself. The trail curved sharply and ended in fire. The burning tree had collapsed across the path, its branches clawing the ground like blackened bones. The air shimmered with heat. There was no way over, no way around. Emily swayed on her feet, blinking sweat and smoke. She couldn't go back. She couldn't go through. Her knees hit the dirt. This is where it ends. And then, light. Headlights cutting through the smoke like twin suns. A fire truck, its engine growling, its beacon spinning red and white through the gray. Emily tried to shout, but only a ragged wheeze came out. She lifted one arm, weak, trembling like a dying branch. "Help!" It barely left her lips. Voices, real ones this time. Heavy boots pounding, strong hands closing around her shoulders. "We've got you!" A firefighter's voice in her ear. "You're safe, both of you." They lifted Mrs. Alden first, then Emily herself. She sagged into unfamiliar arms, the last of her strength spilling out like water from a cracked glass. "The others," she whispered, desperate to finish the thought. "They're safe," the firefighter said, "because of you." Emily wanted to answer, wanted to smile, wanted to say Sophie's name, but the world tilted sideways and everything went black. The first thing Emily felt was the cold, not the cool of air conditioning, but the deep, sterile chill of medical equipment, the kind that seeps into your skin. Her eyes flickered open to a ceiling lined with hanging lights. Shapes moved in her blurry vision. Beeping monitors punctuated the silence like tiny metronomes. She tried to inhale. The air scraped like glass down her throat. Her lungs burned, raw and angry. A cough racked her body, sending a ripple of pain through her ribs. "Easy," a calm voice anchored her. "Strong, steady, familiar somehow. Don't fight it, you're safe." Emily turned her head slowly. Fire Captain Ruiz sat in a metal chair beside her cot, his suit-streaked face illuminated by a small lamp. His uniform was singed at the edges, and his helmet rested on the floor by his boots. He looked like he'd been through hell and back because he had. "Mrs. Alden?" Emily rasped, her voice a gravel whisper. Captain Ruiz's lips curled into the kind of smile that held weight behind it. Stable, breathing on her own. "The oxygen you gave her? That's the only reason she made it until we got to you." He leaned forward, resting his forearms on his knees. "Doctors said without that mask, she'd have been gone in minutes." Emily let her eyes close for a second, relief sweeping through her like cool water after fire. "The others?" "All 15 made it to the road," Ruiz said. "Torres flagged down a deputy, just like you told him to. They're safe, Emily. Every single one." Her chest loosened with the words. She hadn't realized how tightly she'd been holding on to the question. They're safe. That was all she wanted. That was enough. Emily exhaled and let herself sink deeper into the thin mattress. For the first time in hours, maybe years, she allowed herself to feel the weight lift off her shoulders. "I should sleep," she murmured. "You should," Ruiz said, but he didn't move. Instead, there was a flicker in his eyes. "But first, there's something you need to see." Emily frowned, her body too weak to argue as Ruiz stood and gently helped her upright. Her legs trembled like saplings in the wind, but he supported her without effort. The ivy line tugged slightly as they moved, and for a second she thought about protesting. But curiosity overrode exhaustion. "Listen," he said softly. At first, all she heard was the usual chaos of an evacuation shelter, distant voices, blinking trays. the crying of children who'd lost too much too fast. But then she noticed something else. A sound underneath it all, steady, rhythmic, like waves rolling against a distant shore. What is that? Her voice cracked like dry timber. Voices, Ruiz said simply. He guided her towards the tent's opening. The flap swayed, spilling golden light from outside across the dusty floor. Emily blinked against it as they stepped out, and then she froze. The parking lot beyond was packed. Hundreds of people filled the space, shoulder to shoulder, survivors of the fire, their families, emergency workers, volunteers, all facing the tent, all standing in silence for a heartbeat that stretched like eternity. And the sound hit her. Applause. Not wild cheering, not chaos, just a slow rolling thunder of clapping hands, deep and resonant, swelling like a tide that carried gratitude on every beat. It poured over her, through her, until her knees nearly gave out again. No, no, this can't be for me. She scanned the faces, people she knew, people she treated, faces streaked with soot, eyes shining with tears. Many held handmade signs scrawled in marker on cardboard. Thank you, Emily, our angel, the nurse who carried hope. An elderly man at the front raised a trembling hand in salute, tears carving clean paths through the ash on his cheeks. Beside him, a woman clutched her daughter's hand, lips forming two silent words, "Thank you." Emily shook her head, overwhelmed. I didn't. Her voice cracked. I just did your job? Ruiz finished. His smile soft, maybe, but not everyone walks through fire for strangers. Her throat tightened. I don't deserve this, she whispered. You didn't do it to deserve anything, Ruiz said. That's why it matters. Before Emily could respond, the crowd shifted. A small figure broke through the walls of bodies, running full tilt toward her. For one terrifying second, Emily thought she was hallucinating again, until the voice reached her ears, high and real and trembling. Mom! Sophie! Emily barely had time to open her arms before her daughter collided with her. Hugging so tight it hurt, Sophie was crying into her uniform, clutching her like she might vanish again if she let go. I thought you were gone, Sophie sobbed. When they said the fire reached the clinic, I thought, I'm here, Emily whispered, pressing her lips to Sophie's smoke-scented hair. I'm right here, baby. The applause welled louder, surrounding them in a cocoon of sound. Emily held Sophie like a lifeline, the only thing tethering her to this moment. Captain Ruiz stepped closer, kneeling so his eyes met Sophie's. His voice was gentle, reverent. Your mom carried hope through the fire today, he said, and today, hope carries her home. Emily's throat closed up. She tried to speak, to tell them all that she wasn't a hero, that she'd just done what anyone should do. But the words wouldn't come. Maybe they didn't need to. Because as she stood there, her daughter in her arms, her community surrounding her, the smoke of yesterday's hell still clinging to the horizon, Emily understood something deeper than duty, deeper than heroism. It wasn't about oxygen tanks or evacuation plans or even survival. It was about the choice. The quiet, stubborn choice to care when it would be easier not to. To walk into fire when every instinct said to run. To believe that one person could matter when the world was burning down. Hope carries you, she thought as Sophie's arm tightened around her neck, but only if you're willing to carry hope first. And for the first time in her life, Emily let herself believe that maybe, just maybe she had. One evening back home, Emily tucked Sophie into bed. For the first time since the fire, life felt almost normal. Almost. Mom? Sophie's voice was small in the dim light. Were you scared that day? Emily hesitated. She could lie, tell her daughter the brave story everyone wanted to hear, but Sophie deserved the truth. Yes, Emily said quietly. I was terrified. Sophie frowned. Then why did you do it? Emily smoothed the blanket across her daughter's shoulder and searched for the words. Because being scared doesn't mean you stop caring. It just means you care enough to be brave anyway. Sophie thought about that. Her brow furrowed. Then, are there other heroes like you? Emily smiled, her throat tightening again. She thought of Captain Ruiz and his crew, of Dr. Morgan, of the neighbors who'd opened their homes, and the strangers who'd brought food and blankets to the evacuees. She thought of every teacher, medic, and volunteer who chose compassion when it counted most. Yes, sweetheart, she whispered. They're everywhere. You just have to know how to look. Later, after Sophie drifted to sleep, Emily stepped outside. The mountain air was cool, the stars bright against a smoke-free sky. The fire was gone. The town was rebuilding, and Emily understood something she'd never forget. Heroism isn't a single act. It's a thousand small choices made in silence, when no one is watching. It's carrying hope through the fire and letting hope carry you back. Everyday heroes are all around us.